Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining our session today. We are so excited to be here with you. And today we are going to be sharing with you our unique experience of using partnerships to cultivate equity. We will be introducing ourselves further into the slides. But before we dive in to our presentation, I want to just make note that if you have any questions during our presentation, go ahead and type it into the chat to the right of your webinar screen inside the Feedloop platform, and we will make sure to get any of your questions answered for you. All right. So our learning objectives for today, one, we're going to learn about inclusive practices that support students with special needs, and we'll be able to develop your own blueprint for addressing a community need or concern. We wanted to share this quote by Margaret Mead with you because we found it to be really inspiring to us. And it is really our hope that it may spark something in you to start creating change, even if it's something that seems daunting. And so this quote reads, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it is the only thing that ever has." And so we are going to unfold the story of how we formed partnerships to cultivate equity for communication, which is such an essential tool in life. And these graphics represent local organizations coming together to make change. So we have Grossmont Union High School District, a school district in San Diego County that partnered with Transitioning with Technology, which is a local nonprofit organization to support students who require technology to communicate. And so you see that those two organizations are bonded together. And then you have this listening ear down further here, and that represents a new set of ears and eyes, a fresh perspective of a student who was really a catalyst for change, that adapted this initial bond between Grossmont Union High School District and Transitioning with Technology into a more effective and collaborative partnership to support students. And so I kind of like to think of this as, you know, when you bring someone new into your family and new things about your family dynamic start to kind of get revealed to you by this person because they're coming in with that fresh perspective and those fresh observations. And so having that fresh perspective really helped us to see the need that we knew was there, but had not addressed fully. We addressed it in parts, and ultimately with a spotlight shown from those good observations and questions being asked, we were driven to take that right next step in forming this partnership, which is represented on the right here with all of us bonded together. And so now that you kind of know where we'll be going in this presentation, we want to introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Roshan Shah. I currently attend Westview High School, and I'm actually the vice president of my Best Buddies chapter. And I recently founded my organization, Voices Go, in 2020. And this whole process really started with asking questions, and my organization really focuses on supporting students with communication disabilities, as well as helping them procure communication devices so that they can have them forever and as long as they need them. And so this whole process started with me asking questions and really just trying to understand this process because it is devastating for families. And so I was just able to kind of inquire about what was going on. And I'm really super excited to introduce my project to all of you. And thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Erica. I have been working for the Grossmont Union High School District in special education transition classrooms since 2013, specifically with students ages 18 to 22. And I currently support the assistive technology department. where I have really spearheaded the partnership between Grossmont Union High School District and Voices Go in meeting with students and families to get communication devices funded.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here today with everyone. So my name is Kaydie. I have worked in a variety of programs at Grossmont Union High School District and was actually a peer tutor and a student in this district as well. So it's an honor to be serving in the district where I went to school. My current role is an assistive technology teacher. So my role is to implement, support, and teach people to use assistive technology and devices. I am also a member of Transitioning with Technology that Erica mentioned earlier. And, you know, really that's where my passion lies. I really love to support students who have significant disabilities. I am passionate about providing technology to give students a voice and finding ways for every student to access their environment successfully. So, oh, go ahead, Roshan.
Sorry. Just to give everyone some background information, in California alone, there are over 164,000 students with speech and language impairments as their primary disability. And so just a further look, this is a really big problem that we've been noticing. And this kind of, and to take it further, 34% of students with language disorders do not receive this intervention. And this is pretty significant because these kids, they just can't keep their devices and their means of expression. And so we're looking to change this through systemic and community-based changes.
Oops, sorry about that. I was muted. So I was just saying that intervention is just critical to be able to communicate effectively, and seeing that number of students that don't get the supports they need really was a problem in our eyes. So we bring this question to you, and you can feel free to respond in the chat if you'd like and share your thoughts with others. But what would you do if you could no longer speak and did not have a phone, a pen, or something to write on? You're truly just left with yourself. So our solution was to work together and form a partnership. So go on. We're going to dive into our partnership timeline, which is going to kind of give an overview. As you can see the bubbles here. So past, awareness, research and planning, action, and then our future. Get into full screen here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our partnership timelines past. So in the past, we have public schools, which Grossmont Union High School District is one of those public schools. And, you know, schools, they do an amazing job while we have students, you know, supplying them with the equipment they need. But the sad part about all of this is that we are required as schools to collect equipment that, you know, it's a California gift of public funds. And what that means is that if we purchased it with public funds, it prohibits us from giving or lending that item to any person, entity, public or private. So it really is just a California law that is not allowing these students to keep their devices. So when we realize that, you know, we have this sad face on our slide, because it really is, it's a bummer to say, hey, this worked well for you for so many years and now we're taking it back. So what happened was some, you know, previous staff and current staff that work at Grossmont we're really concerned, and it led to the formation of Transitioning with Technology. And that's that first partnership that formed between Grossmont and Transitioning with Technology. So that kind of gives the history of the beginning of our partnership. And now we will go. Okay.
So to really explain this further, we just wanted to give you a real life example here with Joe. He was a student at Grossmont Union High School District who had a speech and language impairment. And during his time at school, he was provided with an iPad with a communication app. And just to put kind of this into a little more perspective, that the cost of that was around $1,000. And Joe, with his communication device, he was connecting with his classmates, with his teachers and his community by using his device to speak and express himself. And so when he graduated, the school did have to collect the device, and essentially he had to give up his voice, his way of communicating. And Joe is just one of those, 164,000 students in California who had to return their device and give up their voice. All right, so we're gonna move from the past into our awareness here. And going back to our graphic a little bit here, we have that partnership between Grossmont Union High School District and transitioning with technology. And then we have that listening ear, right? Which is Roshan, and he is going to take us through his experience and how his interest began.
For sure. So I first started out with visiting special education classrooms in Grossmont Union High School District, and I really got to see and observe students using their communication devices just like normal. And I really wanted to learn more about like what are these devices, because I was kind of intrigued that they were kind of speaking and auditing like an artificial voice. And so again, like I mentioned, I began questioning the processes of like what is a communication device, and then I started focusing more onto like how do they get these communication devices. And so that kind of led me down to a path, and I began kind of really understanding this issue, and I really had no expectations going into this. And so then I really met this inspirational young man named Yonan, and he's an inspiration for me. And he basically uses an eye gaze system, which is a type of communication device. And what it is basically a student will look at the device and it'll basically audit an artificial voice. And so that voice is their means of expression. And so I really listened to Yonan and began kind of establishing a friendship and a bond between him, because I really wanted to understand like why were these devices getting taken away as soon as they left the district, because this is their means of communication, and it didn't really make sense to me. And so I was a little confused about that. And so then this is where the partnership started to cultivate.
Yeah, so at this point, we knew that the initial problem was the lack of funding and resources for students who require alternative communication methods. But Roshan was really our catalyst here, because he started doing the research, and through his research, he was able to not only identify local solutions, but he also revealed to us more information, particularly with his survey. And Roshan will go ahead and talk more about how his research unfolded.
Right. So as Erica mentioned, I kind of created Voices Go to kind of create this gap, or kind of bridge this gap between this issue. And so I recently conducted a survey through Grossmont Union High School District and Poway Unified School District, and I've really found some stark facts, and including that 67% of the respondents at GUH SD and 92% of the respondents at PUSC did not have information or resources about how to fund communication devices after graduation. So this is really significant, because it just kind of exemplifies that this issue is prevalent in not just one school district, but multiple. And so this to me was really highlighted, and it kind of stood out to me because this is a real issue that we're facing, and it kind of just solidified that what I'm doing will actually have results, and it'll actually like address something.
So with all the research that Roshan was able to do, we were then able to take that right next step, which began with contacting stakeholders about the resources that Roshan found, so that they were able to review all the information necessary to get a device funded before the school district would collect the device upon them graduating or exiting. And so once we started contacting stakeholders, the result was a little unexpected. We were surprised to find that there was little follow through. We were not expecting this outcome. And so we came together, we kept putting one foot in front of the other, trying to be solution seekers. And we realized that just giving out information wasn't enough. We thought this could be, for a couple different reasons. Maybe it was because the information was just too overwhelming. Families may have been unsure of where to start or which resource to go with. Or, we were in the midst of a pandemic, so there was a lot going on at that time. A lot of variables, but ultimately we needed to go back to the drawing board. And so we pivoted, and instead of supplying a list of resources, we looked at the students' needs and recommended a specific resource for funding. And so we began doing initial meetings with families to provide more of a broken down step-by-step to complete a process that we had recommended them to go through. And this made a huge difference in follow through. We realized that the lack of awareness was just one variable in solving this problem. Families needed more direction and support. And also, a reminder is always helpful too. So now we're going into kind of our action phase here. So as we made that pivot to organizing meetings, we really came together here and formed a solid bond and partnership between all three of us. And with these actions is where we really saw the difference, specifically with Roshan creating a website and us really walking through the process step by step with families. Also with raising more awareness, which really started by building capacity, where we were having teachers and speech therapists get more familiar with the different options of resources so that they could essentially be our extensions of us helping families through the process as well. And so Roshan will talk here a little bit more in detail about Voices Go and how we expanded.
So I basically started out with making a Google Doc, and after spending over 100 hours of researching resources to kind of help families procure their communication devices, I assembled everything into a Google Doc. And I really expected that families would be able to use this information and fund these communication devices right from the start. But that's when the pivot, like Erica and Kaydie were talking about, where basically this didn't really happen at all. So I kind of had to pivot from this and figure out another strategy and a way to tackle this. And so with raising more awareness, I was able to create my very own website. And through this website, I was able to streamline all of this information, and all of these resources are in kind of a palatable manner, more so than the Google Doc. And so I was able to achieve this, and through this, it kind of, I was able to, because it was more overwhelming, and so for the Google Doc, and so the website kind of made everything easier. And I also had the help of many different people, including my cousin, who was a graphic designer, and I was able to achieve this. And I really just started, this was like the introduction to my organization. And so I kind of started meeting with families and kind of getting feedback from them about what I could do to improve my website, because I wanted to make sure I was serving my community properly. And so I was able to get their input and make modifications accordingly. And so then we kind of started this process.
So here is where we truly came together as three entities to form our unique partnership. We really expanded and extending our offers to meet families on various platforms, whether that was in person or via Zoom or email, to really help them walk them through the funding process. And we were able to partner, with some California programs that through Roshan's research, we had been able to find and work with. And then we really repeated that process with other students and other families. And so we were kind of catching, some students here and there, and then we expanded to reaching out to more and more and do more meetings with students and families. And for here, the future, we will have Roshan kind of expand more on this slide because he has really been very passionate about expanding this even further.
And I just want to add on to my previous slide, which is basically that we found out that it's not enough just to have like a website. We actually have to make this a process for families to be able to continue to fund their communication device. And so that's when I started meeting with Poway Unified School District, and I kind of partnered with them. And I really wanted to address this by district. And so I first started with Roshan High School District, and then I worked my way to Poway Unified School District. And I kind of was partnering with them because in order to kind of facilitate this change. And then I also had contacts from the SD Assistive Technology Task Force, which is made up of representatives from all of SD County, and they kind of help students with disabilities. And so this was a great way to get out my information and disseminate it. And actually, San Diego Unified School District is using this process, and it's using this way of funding communication devices and these resources to help their kids in the district. So that was a really good victory. And then I was like, it's really good helping these families one-on-one. And I really see that I'm changing their lives, and it's just really inspirational for me. But it wasn't really enough to just help each individual family, because there were so many families that I had to help. And so I'm like, why not just streamline this process and make it easier for every family to have this information readily available, so that they don't have to stress out and they can just move forward with this progression of getting this device. And so then I had the idea of contacting Assembly Member Mainshine and Senator Tony Atkins to kind of figure out what is a legislation proposal that I can propose. And specifically, I was able to set up meetings with them and go over some of my ideas for this. And so I really hope this will propel, and this will kind of take place and continue to occur, so that we can help more families and they can just get in on this process. And this will be so easier for these families to systematically change the system. And so I also had the help of YAC, which is Youth Advisory Council, and this is a part of UCSD Health. And they kind of introduced this idea of listening to your community, and then after that, kind of promoting systemic change in order to kind of not just put a Band-Aid on the problem, but actually kind of locate the root cause and be able to address it somehow. And I also had the experience of doing model youth legislation, which was through the YMCA, which was Youth in Government. And basically, I got to learn how a bill gets proposed to law. And so this was really influential because I was really already educated about how a bill gets proposed. And so this kind of made my life easier, because I was able to kind of understand this process through meeting with both representatives.
Okay, so now that we have kind of taken you through our partnership timeline and shared our story of how our partnership formed and unfolded, we wanted to give you a couple of stories of students that we were able to help due to our partnership. And so here we have Brian. And during his time at Grossmont Union High School District, he was provided with a communication device. He absolutely loved using his device to communicate, and when he graduated, he did have to return it to us, but with our partnership, we met with Brian and his family, and we took them step by step in the application process of a local program that Roshan had recommended. And within a couple weeks after submitting the application, he received a device. And then transitioning with technology, stepped in to fund the communication app for him.
Okay, and I'm going to talk about Miss Elise. As you can see, she is a pleasure to work with. So she recently graduated from Grossmont as well. And in fact, Elise already had an iPad at home. She just needed the communication app to speak. We reached out to her family and they did need support with the cost. And, there are some, as sad as it is, there are some apps out there that are pretty pricey to have a voice. So we were able to work with her and her family to get Elise just what she needed. So she got her Proloquo to Go app, which she's now able to select symbols and words to communicate. And, it's just critical to realize that, without that program, Elise really had no way to tell her mom, I love you, or share her wants and needs, or express herself and tell stories, all the other ways, all the other functions of communication that we use every day. So by recent estimates, well over 2 million persons who present with significant expressive language impairments use augmentative and alternative communication. So AAC, which is that device that we just saw Elise and Brian with. So, it's just painting the picture again that this is more than just a local community problem, which is why I think Roshan is looking at these bigger picture ideas and systemic change. So now that you have all heard our story, we wanted to create a blueprint to address a community concern of yours. So this is kind of what we did together to form our partnerships. So, the first thing we do is identify what bothers you. And one thing that we realized working together over the years is it's really critical that you find partners who have the same thing that bothers them as you. So what's great about the partnership with Roshan and Erica is we are all extremely bothered that we know people who lose their voices. And I think that's critical in coming together to address a concern is your heart has to be in it. So identifying what bothers you, determining the causes, like why is this happening? What already exists to address the problem. So that would be, all that research, those hundreds of hours of research that Roshan did, like what is already out there and maybe why aren't people utilizing those, those resources. And then step 4 is to develop partnerships to bring the problem and solutions together. So we included an example beyond ours here, which is food insecurity. So, that's the problem. What are some of the causes? We know this is a big topic here, but it could be income, employment, race, ethnicity, disability, money, right? What already exists to address the problem? I know this could be a long list, and some of the resources were in Live Well Today, which was awesome to see, like Feed San Diego. So, oh, we have sorry, I just realized we attached the wrong information here. So we have food banks, government assistance, community programs already available. So under step 4, what can we do to kind of bring this all together to make solutions happen? So one thing that we did in forming our partnerships is we partnered with existing programs, right? Roshan did develop a local community program, but he also partnered with 2 that were already existing. Raising awareness is really critical in addressing, these community concerns. Let people know what the problem is so that it can be addressed. And the other thing is create a system of support. So like we said, compiling all the resources and letting them live on the website really wasn't enough. We needed to create kind of a buddy system where we were really walking hand in hand with the person that we were trying to help. And I also do have to say that it was very helpful having Roshan, who is, a young man in high school, a peer of some of these people that we are trying to support. So having him involved also, I think, increased our outcomes. So we've also included some tips for developing your own blueprint to address a community concern. So again, so critical to raise awareness. You really want to make your certain topic or issue visible within the community. Put it on blast. Make sure everyone's aware. Make sure people understand the importance of the issue and find support to address it. Also networking. So like Roshan talked about, finding other organizations in San Diego that care about the same things that you do and even beyond San Diego. So it's key to spreading your idea. Depending on your idea, this can be anything from sharing resources, making a website, presenting to stakeholders, contacting local government, all of those great things. We also have some resources attached here. And if you scroll to the bottom of the LiveWell, the Feedloop platform, there should be a way to download our slide presentation, and you can click on these. Just some resources we used specifically on how to make a great elevator pitch.
And if you know a person who can benefit from a device to communicate, please connect them to our partnership. This link, it will take you to Roshan's website, www.voicesgo.org. So if you have someone in mind, please send them our way.
So as we're getting to our final moments of our presentation, I just wanted to share that communication is a basic human right and there should be no cost to having a voice. And so this is really significant because as I'm working with these families, it's just truly amazing to see this profound transformation that students have when they don't have their communication device. They're kind of unable to kind of communicate fully, but as soon as they get their communication device, just like previously mentioned, they are able to fully express themselves and really have a voice again. And they have just means of communication and means of interacting with society. And I think that's super important. And that's why it kind of leads me to this quote that it's unthinkable to lose your voice. I can't really imagine living life without speaking and communicating. And, this really resonates with me because it's tragic really what happens to these families. And it's our part and it's our duty to make sure these families that have students with disabilities, they are able to have these communication devices that they can speak just like everyone else can. And I was also able to find that nobody really knows about this problem. And my surveys were kind of evident of this. And so I really just wanted to highlight this and kind of highlight my next steps. And just thank all of you for being here because this is a really important issue. I'm so glad to bring awareness to this and I'm really excited for the future. Thank you.
So does anyone have any questions for us? Feel free to type your question in the chat to the right of this webinar screen. And while you kind of take a moment to think about that, we do have some resources here for you on this next slide. So be sure to take a look at that for more information. Right, we have Roshan's Voices Go website here. And we'll kind of go through some of the tabs he has created for funding resources. He has a lot of information here that's really useful for helping to connect anyone to funding resources. And then we have a timeline, and I can let Roshan speak more to this. This is something that he worked really hard on creating.
For sure. So I really like to include this timeline because it gives families a rough estimate for when they should be expecting the different steps of funding their communication device. And so I really found this really informative because I want my website to not just be like a piece of art that people just look at, but I want it to be interactive, and I want like more feedback, as well as just I want families to have an easier time with this process because it is really essential for the student. And so I want to make this as easy as possible. And so I therefore listed out like just really just steps for them to kind of get involved in this process.
Awesome. So another resources that we just wanted to share with you is Made to Stick. So Made to Stick by Heath Brothers has some amazing resources. This actually the template we used for our presentation today, but one thing they have on their resource page right here is 6 tips for giving a great elevator pitch. So, you know, not only we don't always have the luxury of, you know, an hour to really give all the context, and sometimes we have 5 minutes with our stakeholders or 10 minutes. So these resources are so essential for using that amount of time you have to really make it impactful. And so these are for you to explore and to kind of use for anything that you know, feel strongly about and passionate about. And we're all about raising that awareness. So I strongly recommend checking out Heath Brothers resources. And they have a book called Made to Stick also. That's great. Okay, I don't think we have gotten any questions. I know that we do have Kelly Ann here, and she was going to also share a resource. So Kelly Ann, do you want me to stop sharing? And
sure. And yeah, we haven't got any questions, but lots of really great comments in the chat, and everyone is really appreciative of the work that you're done. And really, like, I hope you guys can all see the chat because there's some really great comments for the presenters.
oh, that's so wonderful. And again, I really want to, again, piggyback on what Erica said. If any of you know anyone that, you know, needs support with communication, please reach out to us. We are very passionate about, you know, providing support. So.
Awesome. So what I'd like to do now is share with you all one of our really great resources that we have here. So my name is Kelly Ann Rodriguez, and I'm with the County of San Diego. And I don't know if you're seeing the screen I want you to see yet. Let's see. Let me try again. So I'm going to try to share my screen with you. And what we've got for you all today is we have a program that we have called our Tools for Schools. And what our Tools for Schools is it's an interactive page where you can actually view different resources for schools. And can one of our panelists, can you let me know if you're able to see it or what you're seeing?
I see Tools for Schools.
Awesome. Okay. So Tools for Schools, like I said, it's an interactive webpage that really lists all of our San Diego partners and partners that are available to help schools with resources. And so the page has hundreds of resources available. And what I'd like to do is show you kind of a little bit about how it works. So today on our presentation, we talked about access and equity. So if we were to type in, we'll just put in the word equity here, it's going to pull up 3 different partners that are working in equity within San Diego communities. We could look at another thing. So maybe if we wanted to look at hearing, let's see if we get something for hearing impaired. Oh, not that one. So we can get different partners working on different projects. You can filter it by communities. You can filter it by activity. So maybe if we wanted to do like music therapy. So here's a Heart Foundation. And so really what we wanted to share this with you is because this is a way to find resources for all of your school-based needs. And if you're working with a partner, or if you are a partner and you'd like to be added to this resource, you can click here and email Pam Smith, and she can have you added into the website. So I'll take you on a little tour of it. So you can go to the homepage. You can learn more about the Live Well Schools program. This is the Tools for Schools page. So you can kind of see all of our pages. We have like, this is alphabetized, obviously, but you can do a focused area. And so you can look at health equity or wellness policies. You can research social emotional wellness or childhood obesity or even absenteeism. But it's just a great resource available for free to all of our school partners and our partners that are serving the school communities. And so we wanted to make sure that you all had access to that today. So thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time, and we'll make sure that this is shared with you, that the link is shared with you all too. So thank you guys. And again, hopefully you guys can all see those fantastic comments in your chat box.
Oh, thank you for being here, Kellyanne. And again, thank you to all the participants. I know we ended a little bit early, but I don't think anyone ever complains about the gift of time. So, so we hope you really enjoyed it, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions or comments you may have.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.